Good afternoon. I hope lunch was filling. I hope it was good. It smells Mexican to me. Glad to have you back for a second day. I'm Steve Payne. I'm your State Superintendent of Schools. Before I have the opportunity and the pleasure and the honor of introducing our governor, I'd like to introduce just a couple of people to you that have joined us for lunch. First of all, Senate Education Chair Kenny Mann, great friend of education, Kenny.
No, let me put this over here.
And two of our state board members for Morgantown, Scott Rotruck and Frank Vitale. So without further ado, I have the great honor and pleasure and privilege of introducing to you our governor and a friend. He's a gentleman that probably is the reason that I chose to return a second time, knowing that the stars would all line up, and they certainly have.
Don't blame that on me.
Yeah. I was hoping that might be a good thing, but he has a heart of a lion toward children, and especially student athletes. He is a coach, and he's a good one. I did a little coaching in my time, and I watched one of his games, and just has a great way with his student athletes. He has a vision for education that I really want you to know about with education and outside of education. When he took over, the state was $500 million in debt. Kenny and the legislature were making cuts to our budgets, unfortunately, had no choice to balance the budget. And today, we're very proud to say the state finished the year with the 5% teacher increase, which he was almost solely responsible for, of $30 million surplus. That's an amazing accomplishment. In just a little bit over a year and a half. That's just absolutely amazing. You know, I could say a lot of things, but one of the very important things that I appreciate that he did, and I'll never forget his statement, you know, he said, Steve, it's really hard to recruit prospective employers and businesses to the state. We're going to label all of our schools with C's, D's, and F's. So he did away with the A-to-F accountability system. That was this gentleman. He's been married for 40 years. His wife, there you go. He's married to his wife, Kathy, who just might be the kindest, most genuine, authentic person, literally, I've ever met in my life. He has 2 children, and he's the proud grandfather recently of JC. Yeah. Got it?
Justice Charles.
Justice Charles. So if you would, please welcome our 36th governor, the Honorable Governor Jim Justice.
Thank you. No, sit down, sit please. I'm going to sit too, okay? Steve was really nice in his kind words. He mentioned Kathy, and we've been married 700 years now. And you know, Kathy is a wonderful, wonderful person and incredibly kind. You know, there's an old saying out there, and don't be offended in any way because I'm just teasing here. But there's an old saying out there that says, behind every great man is even a greater woman. And I know you've heard that many times. And I would tell you there are exceptions, and you don't necessarily have to buy into that completely. Now, I'm just teasing, okay? And the reason I say that is because if something happens to me along the way, investigate Kathy. Because I'm telling you, she's out to get me. As I was leaving the house today, I didn't have a tie, and she ran back and grabbed one of my ties. And you see how short this thing is right here? It's actually Jay's tie, my son. But I think she does this to me on purpose, to tell you the truth. But she is a wonderful, wonderful person, and I love her dearly. And we're very, very, very proud to have a grandchild now, and he's 7 months old, and he's really tall and really big, and a lot of people wonder how he's gotten that. But you know, I look at him and think, man, you got a tough life coming, because you're going to find out in your life that the only thing that you can buy in a store that fits is a handkerchief. And so, but nevertheless, today's special in a lot of ways for me in just this. You know, we went through a pretty rocky road, you know, with education and with people being not happy and people showing their discontent. And I think we came out of it with real progress. But let's go back, because it's really, really important to me, because one of the things along the way that I just couldn't get, and I mean this, you see, I believe in you more than anybody. There are those of you, maybe even here right today, that don't buy that, and that's your own opinion. It's not true. You know, on the first day, my first day, on the State of the State night, I stood up and said, we need to make education our centerpiece. We need to let education become our economic driver. Not necessarily something that we feel like is a necessary evil that we've just got to find a way to fund. Go back and listen. And that's exactly what I said. And you say, well, why? Why would he say such a thing? You know, it's easy to say, but just think about this just for a second. We, like it or not, in West Virginia have been the blunt end of a lot of bad jokes for a long time. Image becomes reality so often. Like it or not like it, we've been 50th in everything coming or going. And you can like me or not like me. Hey, that may be my phone. No, yes it is. Let me show you how high tech I am. Pam, where are you? Okay, Drew, come here. Here, see, I still got a flip phone. And seriously, and this is how I function. You better take this just in case I'd throw it to you, but hey, what a catch. He looks like a real athlete, you know. But just think about it. If your image is not great and you keep pitching a 50th, how in the world can you expect people to come to West Virginia? I mean, it's this in rocket science. You see, I'm the guy that just tells it like it is. I'm a guy that dumbs it down for me and everyone else. I'm the guy that believes just this, that people that think about coming to West Virginia, the first thought that goes through their mind is, how good are the schools? How good are the teachers? The next thought may very well be the roads, believe it or not, because that's almost like a standard of life. But the first consideration is, oh my Lord, I'm not going to go there and take Susie and Johnny, because all I've heard about West Virginia is dark, dingy, backward, ignorant, and all that kind of stuff. So it had to change. So I'm a believer. Take the number one thing head on. And that's why I said, put it first. Put it first. Make it our centerpiece. Now, along the way, then I got in a real battle, did I not? And I did. I said in the beginning that you ought to have a 2% pay raise at a time when the numbers were so incredibly bad that it was unbelievable. Now I want to read this to you real quick, and it'll be very, very short and brief. But I had this in my briefcase, and I was on the way. I didn't prepare anything to come here and talk to you today, but I just want you to think about this just for a second. On the day that I walked into office, this is what they laid right on my desk. And I'll find it in a second. I got it now. Now this is what was just shoved right to me. In the current year that we're in, and we're halfway through the year, because I take office in January and the year begins in July. So you're halfway through the year and you're supposed to have a balanced budget for that year, are you not? I mean, that's constitutionally the way it's supposed to be. And they hand me this and it says, first year right out of the bat, you're going to end up with a $219 million deficit. Well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? The next year, you're going to end up $497 million short. The first year that I'm able to put a budget into place, $497 million short. The next year is $598, $626, $676, and then $772. Losses every year. Now, if you add those up, you're in the multiple billions of losses. Now, you had just gone through 6 consecutive years of cuts. Now, what are you going to do? What in the world are you going to do? Now, here's something that all of y'all in this room sometimes can forget, but this is fact. If you had anything like this, it would never enter your mind to even consider the possibility of that we could have a pay raise or we could do such a thing as fix PEIA. No way. Impossible. Impossible. The goodness that has come is coming from the fact that we have turned the entire state around, for good or for bad. I don't care what anybody says on this earth, I've got the numbers. Now get this, today, in the budget year we're in, Superintendent Payne told you we got a $30 million surplus. There was people that beat all over me in the past legislative session when I said, put in $58 million, and they said it's hocus pocus money. The governor has the right to put in revenue that he thinks is going to happen. They said it was hocus pocus numbers, did they not? And we've ended up with 30 million of it before we even get into the next year. The next year's projections are balanced. The next year beyond that's a $23 million, surplus. The next year's a $57 million surplus. The next year's $28 million. The next year's $58, and the last year's $119. All surpluses. So to me, what we hope we're going to be able to do is just this. I've said over and over. I said it in my initial statement, in my initial State of the State. And if you didn't hear it, you weren't listening. I'm a teacher. I have a teaching degree. I'm not only a coach, but I'm a teacher. My wife's a teacher. I'm in the school a lot of times 6 days a week for 5 months out of the year. And I'm in schools all over the state. I get it. You're underpaid. That's all there is to it. And you're grossly underappreciated, or you at least were. Now, at the 11th hour, you may say, well, if he is so pro us, how did he come up with 11111? And let me explain that. When I came up with 2 in the beginning for you and got shot down, you had, and let's be fair again, you had many people come to me on the Republican side and many on the Democrat side that said, can you please withdraw that? Can you get away from that, please? Because we really don't want to do that. There were some that really, to be perfectly honest, just didn't like what was happening with the teachers, period. And there was many that thought, well, if we were going to do it, we need to do it for everybody. And then there was many more that said, well, we can't do it, period, we're broke. You know, I said it's going to be okay. And the reason it's going to be okay is just this. Severance taxes are going to rise. Now, that's what I said right in the first day of the state. A lot of people looked at me like I was crazy. I said right in the first state of the state we should tier the severance tax on oil and gas and coal. I got all kinds of pushback. But at the end of the day, we had it right to the altar to do. And people dove in the ditch. Now, I'm really not a politician. But I am telling you, if we would have tiered oil and gas and coal at that time, these numbers would have been possibly even another $100 million in the black. Maybe the solution to PEIA was right at our fingertips and we threw it in a trash can, with me screaming the whole time in my glass bubble, don't do it. The oil and gas people were behind it, and the coal people were behind it, and we threw it away. We also threw away another thing that I hate like crazy. We were going to bid out if the road bond thing passed, and a lot of people didn't think that was going to happen either, but it did. And a lot of that is because of your help. But at the end of the day, what we had in there was, again, first state of the state, I said let's put a 5% successful buyer's fee on anybody that is awarded the road bond or the road job. I thought what would happen would be just this. If Steve Payne were bidding the job and the job was somewhere close to $3 million, if his number came out $3.1 million and he had added in the 5% to $150,000, he basically would have then turned around and said, you know, I need to sharpen my pencil. I'm going to take a little bit out of labor and I'm going to take a little bit out of inputs and everything. He got his bid down to 2.95 and he got the job. But you know what? The guy that got the job has to pay the $150,000, and we were going to put that in a bucket and fight this horrible drug epidemic. 5% of $3 billion is $150 million that we could have put in a bucket to fight the drug epidemic. Now, I don't want to bore you with all the stuff that's going on within the state, but I want to tell you just this from the very bottom of all my heart. I love you. I think you do a great job. I went around during the campaign and did listening tours, and I am telling you, look, I've run a lot of businesses, and I've been with a lot of people. I've never seen a group of people that were more sincerely dedicated to what they wanted to do and were more demotivated. They felt like they were unappreciated. They felt like they were just beat down. You were. You were. Now, some way, somehow, that's got to change. Because you see, at the end of the day, if Susie and Johnny are living in South LA with their mom and dad, and the opportunity comes for them to come to West Virginia with their business, we want their first reaction to be, praise the Lord, because we're going to a good place. We're going to a place where the schools are good, and the teachers are good, and the facilities are good. We're going to a good place. That's what has to happen. Because at the end of the day, if that doesn't happen, you can say what you want, but we have proven how to be dead last. All I can possibly do is just talk to you in plain words. Let me just say this. Our State Board of Education, we've got 2 members right here. And our legislature, and I don't know how many we have here, but I know we got Kenny. I'm telling you, they want goodness too. Our State Board of Education is doing amazing work. Not only did we get rid of A through F, we stopped this crazy testing where you're just testing and testing them, testing upon testing. We got rid of a lot of the bureaucracy in Charleston, and we put local control back in. And on top of that, we gave you some discretion in the calendar. You know, the things that should have happened, we would have never, ever gotten that done if it hadn't have been for the new board members and all their wisdom. They deserve so much credit. Superintendent Payne is doing a wonderful job. At the end of the day, we'll make mistakes. I won't ever tell you anything but the truth. But I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I said it a second ago. I love you, and I appreciate what you do, and I get it. I get it. The very fact that we have, I don't know what it is today, but at one time it was 700 plus classrooms that we didn't even have a teacher. We don't have a teacher because we can't be competitive with other states. Well, for God's sakes of living, when are we going to wake up and say, by God, we're not going to be competitive, we're going to be better than any of the other states in every single thing we do. Now, the last thing I'd tell you is just this. What's happened in West Virginia, I'd love to sit here and be able to take all the credit in the world for it and everything, not necessarily, but what's happened in West Virginia, and you could say, well, some of the credit comes from the legislators and some of the credit comes from the governor or whatever like that. I'm telling you, we have had a blessing from God above happen to us within this state. The idea to pass or to approach a road bond referendum of $3 billion was unheard of, impossible, impossible. Now I'm going to tell you there's problems with that too, because we need to be doing more work on the secondary roads, and more monies need to be continually pumped into that, and we're working on it. But I am telling you, that one move right there has changed us in so many ways. The backup move to changing the footprint of education changed us. The commitment to look at education as an investment has changed us. And the outside world really gets it. Now, a lot of the people in the local press or whatever it may be, you know, just beat on the craziest things in the world. But the outside world gets it. Think about this. Just think about it. 18 months ago, our bonds were derated. Now they've been back upgraded to stable. There is so many things happening within this state, it's unbelievable. You are the centerpiece. Don't ever forget, you are the centerpiece. You are the very product that everybody looks at first and says, I want to come to West Virginia. You absolutely are the economic driver. You're not the necessary evil that we got to figure a way to fund. Now, I'm going to end by just saying this. In addition to this, we're taking on something that is dog tough. PEIA. It is really tough because healthcare costs continue to escalate. We really don't know exactly, you know, what to predict and what all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you just as straight up as I can tell you, The day I walked into office, I'll bet you I have had thousands of conversations that said, we need to take PEI to 70-30. We got to do it now. It's out of control. Now I'm telling you, and I will promise you this to God above, not only did we not take it to 70-30, but we're going to solve it. And we're going to protect your benefit that many of you opted to do, knowing that your salary was not going to be outrageously good, but many of you opted to take this profession on, not only because you love children, but because you thought salary not so great, but the benefits are stable. And we're going to get this done. Now, the only way really that we're going to get it done is the state's going to have to belly up to the bar and really participate. The other thing is, and I'd just like to ask you just this one question, and you don't have to throw me out of here, but one of the real deterrents on PEI is this. Maybe even there's some in this room, but your spouses that work somewhere else. What if they were to come back and say, if the spouse on his or her own has an annual income of greater than $150,000, then they need to be responsible for their own insurance. Is that something that would be heartburn to you? I'm talking about there are people, believe it or not, that are on PEI that are riding along that are attorneys making $2 or $3 million a year. And it hurts you. It really does. And so what I'm saying to you is, one of the solutions, and it won't be much, it won't even be significant at all, but one of the solutions was, well, just get the spouses all off PEI. And I said, no way. No way. Then, well, get the spouses off PEI up to 50,000. I said, no way. So the net of the whole thing is just this. I do believe that if you have somebody that's making an outrageous income, then they ought to be able to pay for their own insurance. But the other flip side of it, if you have two people that are in a household and are both making 50,000 or 40,000 or whatever like that, and to throw one of them where they're paying, $1,500 or $1,800 a month, that's just not good. So the net of the whole thing is just this. At the end of the day, you can take this to the bank because this is going to happen. If our state continues to prosper and we, the Kenny Manns and all the people that are in the good people in the legislature truly buy into the fact that we have to invest. We've got to invest in education. And we belly up to the bar, and that's what we're going to have to do. We'll solve it. It's a difficult thing to solve. And like anything, almost, it takes real money to solve. And one thing I started down the path, and I want to go back there and just say this. You may wonder where the 11111 came from. And I want to explain this to you so you'll know. In the beginning, I said 2, and I couldn't get it done. I felt like the only way on this earth, for good or for bad, this is exactly what I thought. I thought the only way that I had a shot of getting you the 2 was go 1-1 and give the 1-1 to everybody. Now, you can beat on me all day long. I wanted to get you the 5 from the absolute get-go. The numbers probably had to really be pushed to be able to justify that. I felt like that, and if I would have come out right on the day 1 and said, I want to do 5, well, I wouldn't have absolutely just had my butt handed to me. There'd have been no way. But I will promise you, right as soon as the crack came in the door, And the crack came in the door because one of the bodies said, let's go to 2. And then one of the other bodies said, why don't we go 2211? And you know, right as soon as that opportunity provided itself, I called the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House to my office, and I said, I'm going to 5 right now. Now, there was a lot of interaction, but at the end of the day, we made a statement to invest in you. And I'm going to continue to tell you that every opportunity that I can in my body and mind to be able to help education, that's what I'll do. I expect you to be good and honorable and absolutely great at what you do, like I know you are. I want you to even achieve greater than what you already achieved. But you can bet to God above that I'm your friend, and I am a believer in education, and I am absolutely on board. So I'll leave by saying this: thanks to everybody and all the great efforts that we've made in this state, the number one thing that we have done, the number one thing we've done is this right here. We've made people know on the outside just how good we know we really are. We've given ourselves hope. Now, we got lots to do, but we've made people on the outside know just how good you really are. And they're coming. And every single month, I almost wonder, when is enough enough? Every blooming month, the numbers are better and better and better. And we want it just to continue on and on and on. Now look, you've done great work. Go out and do even greater work. I am really proud of you. I thank you for letting me come here. I thank you for letting me sit on this. You can tell this is rock solid wood because it's got a load on it. But I really mean it when I say God bless you and I love you. Thank you. All right, I'm out of here. See y'all.
Governor, thanks again. I know you have a busy schedule, so
I'm going to take your walk.
Taking time out to come see us. He has, in fact, instilled a hope and optimism for me, and hopefully for you, for the future of education in our state. We're very grateful. Let's give him one nice round of applause.
As always, Governor Justice really inspired us. He gave a great performance as always. He is really a great cheerleader for education. So we appreciate him being here today. Appreciate all of you for everything you've done. We're going to now, you'll have time for a break. And then we're going on to our 1 o'clock session. The rest of the afternoon will run as normal. Sessions A through E will be back in here for mathematics at 3:30. So sessions 8, not sessions, but